Hello, YNABers. My name is Jesse Meekum, and this is podcast number 370 for YNAB, where we teach you 4 rules to help you stop living paycheck to paycheck, get out of debt, and save more money. I'm going to come right out and confess something. My wife, Julie, and I don't swear. We were raised not to swear, and for some reason, it stuck with us. Now, I confess this only so you'll have some context for the stark lesson I learned while sitting at the dinner table with my kids several years ago. We only had 5 at the time. Our oldest was 9. I was digging. I wanted to know at the dinner table there if the kids at school were beginning to stitch swears together in that elegant way that only kids who really have no idea what they are saying can. So I asked, I said, hey guys, I have a question, and you can totally just tell me straight. Even say the words out loud. Have you heard any bad words at school? Now Harrison, my then 7-year-old, he immediately caught my eye. His glance was dancing back and forth between various siblings, mainly his older brother. And his expression told me he was processing something with at least a little consternation. After a few quiet moments, which are quite rare in our house, he did break the silence. As solemn as a 7-year-old can be, he said, yeah, I've heard some bad words. So my curiosity was totally piqued at this point, and I probed. I was like, really? What have you heard? It's totally okay if you say the word. And so Harrison, we're all at the dinner table there. He leans in, and we all kind of did. And he says, sometimes the kids will say, and then there was this long pause. Then almost inaudibly, he says, stupid. And I had no choice but to feign a shock that matched his somber response to my inquiry. Julie and I looked at each other and silently shared a collective thought of, oh no, what have we done? Later that evening, I just could not stop laughing and thinking about this dinner table conversation. My kids, and this was the takeaway for me, my kids were being molded in ways that I could not have anticipated. So my then 7-year-old, he's now in 7th grade, so he's been fixed right up regarding the real swears. But it impressed me how we had never said that's a bad word, but apparently we had said things like, hey, don't say that, or don't call your brother that, or something. I don't know. I never said this is a bad word, don't say it. But he thought that stupid was one of those bad words, and so all the kids dropping all those swears at school really had caught him off guard. And you have these parenting moments where you think, oh, this lesson, it's really sinking in, only to find out years later what really sunk in was the time that I broke the van going so fast on those dirt roads. That's a quote. Or, you'd think our van is named the Odyssey. I feel like they should brush up on the works of Homer and prepare it to live up to its name a little bit. But the kids, they forget the parenting moments, it seems, these moments, quote unquote, and they seem to remember everything else. And anyway, so speaking of parenting moments soon to be forgotten, one that eluded me for quite some time, and you might think this is funny, but it's the talk, and I'm not talking about sex. That's an easy one. I'm talking about the money talk with the kids. And I had just wrapped up the manuscript for my book. And the reason I was prompted to do this is because I've gotten a lot of feedback from the book in the last year since it's been out. And people will tell me overwhelmingly the most impactful chapter for them was the chapter on kids and money. And I'll admit, we had wrapped up the manuscript for the book, You Need a Budget, and that's when we decided that we should include a chapter about how to teach your kids about money. And I deliberated, I brainstormed, I rambled, and we finally landed on the only thing that I could possibly share with the readers, and probably with a lot of you that have read the book. And it was just what I'm currently doing with my own kids. And so I wanted to give you a synopsis of that, not to take away from the book. I mean, you can you can get the book or not. But I wanted to give a synopsis on what we're currently doing with the kids because it's still working. And given the rate of change and experimentation that I had done up to this point, I'm actually surprised that it's still working, but it is. So I was trying to figure out in writing that chapter how to codify the money talk with kids. And the fact of the matter is this is scary, but there really isn't one talk. There isn't that one parenting moment that finally sticks. And I don't want to scare you too much or scare me, frankly, but the money talk involves very little talking. It's a lot more about what you are doing with your money and how your kids automatically and without your consent absorb those lessons. Just like my 7-year-old at the time had somehow absorbed the lesson that stupid was a swear word, they're picking up on all sorts of things that we are trying or trying not to teach them. Now, since we're all adults here, I think, let's you and I have this money talk just really quickly. And I'll try and not make it awkward. The core principles run deep, and I do hope that these could stick for you. And as they stick for you, watch them stick for your kids. Here are a couple. Take only the money you have right now, not what you'll have later, and decide what you want that money to do before you spend it. And as you know, that's just code for budget your money. It's only the money you have, and you have to decide before you spend it. Number 2 is to anticipate those larger expenses, like maybe a van's suspension breaking because it didn't live up to its name. And you save up for that stuff. Those little bits every month, instead of borrowing money and going into debt to cover the suspension, you've got cash set aside for it. Number 3, you teach your kids, and you do this yourself. You change your budget when you need to. And you do it without any feelings of failure. Budgets don't break, they just change. And finally, once you're paid again, you just go back to that first point and ask yourself what that money has to do right now before you're paid again. You just repeat that process over and over and over again. As you begin living these principles, your kids will start picking up on all the lessons you're dropping without even noticing. Of course, you explain mechanics. So you explain how interest works for you and against you, or the difference between a debit and a credit card and things like that. Very, very basic stuff. You would talk about the taxes that are taken out of their first paycheck. There's just fundamentals, and it's up to you to teach those. They're very quick lessons. They're very obvious for the most part. They aren't anything that takes a lot of work to have instilled into your kids. But beyond that, the critical lessons learned will take place really as you get better with money. Maybe get a little more open about it. Talk a little more about it. Have your kids see you and your significant other talking fruitfully, productively about money in your relationship. And then, someday in the future, you'll really throw your kid for a loop when he asks for something at the store and hears you say, for the first time in his life, that it's not in the budget. It's like you just dropped your first swear. Until next time, follow YNAB's 4 rules and you will win financially. You've never budgeted like this.